At 10,994 meters beneath the Western Pacific, the pressure is so immense it could crush a nuclear submarine into a ball of crumpled steel in a fraction of a second. No light has ever reached this place. The temperature hovers just above freezing. And yet, when a camera finally descended into that crushing black, it recorded something that should not have been there. Something alive. We are going to travel there. All the way down. Meter by meter, from the warm light of the surface to the deepest point on the entire planet. And we are going to do it slowly, because every layer we pass through hides something stranger than the last. But before we sink, you need to understand three things. Hold on to each of them, because every one will matter before this journey ends. First, somewhere below 8,000 meters, a creature was filmed that, by every rule of biology we know, simply cannot exist. We will reach it. Second, only 3 human beings in all of history have ever traveled to the very bottom of this trench. What the first of them saw down there changed how scientists think about the deep ocean forever. And third, there is a sound, recorded from this part of the Pacific, so loud and so strange that for years, no one on Earth could explain it. Keep it in the back of your mind. We will come back to it at the very end. The Mariana Trench is not a hole. It is a scar. A crescent-shaped wound in the floor of the Pacific Ocean, more than 2,500 kilometers long, carved into the planet where one tectonic plate is being slowly dragged down beneath another. At its lowest point, a place called the Challenger Deep, it plunges nearly 11,000 meters down. If you could lift Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, and drop it into this trench, the summit would still be more than 2 kilometers underwater. You could lose the highest point on the planet down here, and the ocean would not even notice it was gone. To put that in perspective, the deepest a human can scuba dive is a few hundred meters, and even that can kill you. Almost all of the ocean's life lives in the top sliver near the sun. Everything below is a vast, dark, almost completely unknown world. And we are about to fall through all of it, layer by layer. We even know how deep it goes because of a single ship. In 1875, a British vessel called HMS Challenger first measured these depths the only way they could, by lowering a weighted rope, kilometers of it, over the side and waiting for it to touch bottom. The deepest point still carries that ship's name today, the Challenger Deep. It would take us another 85 years to build a machine that could survive what that rope only managed to measure. And consider this before we descend. The water at the very bottom of the trench has not seen the surface in a very long time. Some of the deep water moving through the world's oceans has been in the dark for over 1,000 years, slowly circling the planet, untouched by sun or sky since before some of our oldest cities were built. We are not just sinking through space. We are sinking through time. Let us begin where every dive begins. At zero. At the surface. The water here is warm. Sunlight pours down in shifting golden columns. This is the only part of the entire ocean that looks the way you imagine the ocean to look. This top layer, the first 200 meters, is called the Sunlight Zone. It is home to almost everything you have ever seen in a photograph of the sea. Coral reefs, tuna, dolphins, sea turtles, sharks. Roughly 90% of all marine life lives in this thin, bright band near the surface. And it really is thin. 200 meters. Shorter than many skyscrapers are tall. Compared to the journey ahead of us, this entire sunlit world is barely a scratch on the surface of the ocean's skin. A trained human, holding a single breath, can dive past 200 meters and back, but only a handful of people on Earth have ever done it, and the ocean punishes mistakes without mercy. Dive too deep on compressed air and nitrogen turns your blood to poison. Rise too fast and the gas inside you boils into bubbles that can kill. The sea does not want us down here. Everything below this point, we visit inside machines, or not at all. Now we begin to sink. And the very first thing you notice is the color draining out of the world. At just 10 meters down, the color red vanishes completely. There is not enough light left for your eyes to register it, so red turns a dull, bruised gray. A cut down here would bleed black. By 30 meters, orange is gone. By 50, yellow disappears too. The whole world is collapsing inward into a single color, blue. At 100 meters, you are drifting through one cold, dim shade of blue, and the surface above you is just a faint, trembling ceiling of light. Already, almost no human will ever come this far without a machine to keep them breathing. And here we cross an invisible wall called the thermocline. Above it, the water was warmed by the sun. Below it, the temperature begins its long fall toward 4 degrees Celsius, and it will keep dropping, colder and colder, for the rest of the way down. At 200 meters, we cross the first great boundary of the deep. The sunlight zone ends. We enter the twilight. Scientists call it the mesopelagic. The Twilight Zone. It stretches from 200 meters down to 1,000, and it is the largest living space on the entire planet. More animals live in this dim, blue-black layer than anywhere else on Earth, including all the land you have ever walked on. But down here, the rules change. Because sunlight is almost gone, and so life has learned to make its own. This is the realm of bioluminescence. Living light. Tiny chemical lanterns burning cold inside the bodies of fish, squid, jellyfish, and creatures that science has not even named yet. The vast majority of animals in the open ocean can produce their own light. In the deep sea, glowing is not rare. It is simply the normal way to be alive. Take the lanternfish. It may be the most abundant vertebrate on the entire planet, numbering in the hundreds of trillions. It wears rows of glowing dots along its belly, and here is the clever part: from below, those lights perfectly match the faint glow filtering down from above. A predator looking up sees no silhouette, no shadow at all. The fish hides inside its own light. Above it hunts the hatchetfish, its body flattened like a blade of living chrome, with enormous eyes that point permanently upward, scanning forever for the shadow of a meal against the last dying glow of the sun. And then come the hunters with teeth. The viperfish, with fangs so long they will not even fit inside its mouth, curving back almost to its eyes. The fangtooth, which has the largest teeth of any fish in the ocean, relative to its body size. These are small animals, most no longer than your hand, but down here, where a meal might come once a month, every hunter is built like a trap that never lets go. Stranger still is the barreleye. It has a transparent, dome-shaped head, like the cockpit of a fighter jet, filled with clear fluid. Through that see-through skull, its glowing green eyes rotate, looking straight up through the top of its own head to spot prey drifting overhead. We did not even understand how it worked until a remote camera caught one alive, deep in the water, in 2009. And drifting nearby is something that may be the longest animal on Earth. Not the blue whale. A siphonophore. A creature that can stretch longer than a blue whale, more than 40 meters, but is not a single animal at all. It is a colony of thousands of tiny clones, strung together into one glowing, hunting thread, draped through the dark like a living curtain of light and venom. And somewhere in these waters drifts a creature that may have beaten death itself. A jellyfish no bigger than your fingernail, which, when it grows old or is badly injured, can transform its aging cells back into youth and begin its entire life cycle all over again. In theory, it never has to die of old age at all. We call it the immortal jellyfish, and it has been quietly cheating death in the dark long before humans ever noticed it existed. And here is the vampire squid. Its name sounds terrifying, and it looks the part, cloaked in a webbed black cape with glowing red eyes. but it drinks no blood. When threatened, it turns itself inside out, pulling that cape over its own body and lighting up with hundreds of points of light to confuse whatever is hunting it. It has survived, almost unchanged, for more than 300 million years. It watched the dinosaurs rise and fall from down here in the dark, and it is still here. But the strangest thing about the Twilight Zone is not any single creature. It is what the entire zone does every single night. As the sun sets on the surface, billions upon billions of these animals begin to rise. Lanternfish, squid, jellyfish, shrimp, all swimming upward together, hundreds of meters, to feed in the richer waters near the surface under the cover of darkness. Then, as dawn breaks, they all sink back down into the safety of the black. It happens every night, all over the planet, moving billions of tons of living creatures up and down through the sea. It is the largest migration of animals anywhere on Earth, and it has been happening, unseen, every single night for millions of years. It is so vast that during the Second World War, sonar operators were baffled by a strange, solid layer that appeared on their screens during the day and rose toward the surface at night. They thought they had found a moving false seafloor. They had not. They were seeing the Twilight Zone itself, so dense with life that it bounced sound like solid ground. We call it the deep scattering layer, and it is one of the largest concentrations of life on the planet. We keep sinking. 500 meters. 600. 700. The temperature is near freezing now, and the light is almost completely gone. At 800 meters, we pass through clouds of jellyfish, some with bodies longer than a bus, drifting like ghosts with no eyes, no brain, and no bones. Just nerves and hunger, pulsing slowly in the black. And then, at 1000 meters, the very last photon of sunlight finally dies. Not dims. Dies. From here all the way down to the bottom, there is no sun. There has never been a sunrise. There will never be a dawn. Welcome to the Midnight Zone. The bathypelagic. A layer of permanent, total, eternal darkness, 3,000 meters thick. This is where the ocean stops looking merely strange and starts looking like another planet entirely. And it is here, drifting in absolute black, that we meet one of the most famous monsters of the deep. The anglerfish. You know it from its lure, a glowing rod that dangles in front of a mouth crowded with needle-like teeth. Small fish, desperate for any sign of food in this empty void, swim toward the light, and the jaws snap shut. But the truth about the anglerfish is far stranger than the lore. The nightmarish creature you are picturing, with the glowing rod, is always female. The male is a tiny, almost helpless thing, a fraction of her size. When he finally finds her in the endless dark, he bites into her body and never lets go. His skin fuses into hers. Their blood vessels join. Slowly, he dissolves into her, until he is nothing but a pair of reproductive organs hanging off her flank. In a place where finding a mate is so rare it might never happen twice in a lifetime, nature chose this, to never be alone again, even if it means disappearing into another creature entirely. Around us swim other impossibilities. The gulper eel, almost all mouth, able to unhinge its jaw and swallow prey larger than itself. The black swallower, which can eat a fish 10 times its own size. The Dumbo octopus, flapping ear-like fins as it hovers over the abyss, the deepest living octopus ever found. And hiding in the black is one of the ocean's strangest hunters, the cookie-cutter shark. Barely half a meter long, it glows softly along its belly, luring in animals far larger than itself. Then it latches on and twists its body, carving out a perfect round plug of flesh, and vanishes back into the dark before its victim even understands what happened. It has scarred whales, great white sharks, dolphins, and on occasion, the rubber sonar domes of nuclear submarines. A predator the size of your forearm, leaving its mark on the largest animals in the sea. And gliding through the dark are living fossils. The frilled shark, a serpent-like creature with 300 backward-pointing teeth, almost unchanged for 80 million years. The goblin shark, with jaws that shoot forward out of its face to seize prey. These are not new animals. They are ancient ones, surviving down here in the dark long after their relatives above vanished from the earth. And somewhere out here, the ocean stages a battle no human has ever fully witnessed. The giant squid, with eyes the size of dinner plates, the largest eyes of any animal that has ever lived, evolved to gather the faintest hint of light in this darkness. For centuries it was dismissed as a sailor's myth. It was not filmed alive in the deep until 2012. Its great enemy is the sperm whale, which dives down here from the surface, holding its breath for over an hour, hunting these squid in total darkness using sound alone. Sperm whales surface with circular scars from squid suckers wringing their skin, the marks of titanic struggles fought kilometers down in the black, where no light has ever shone, and no eye has ever watched. And far to the south, in the cold waters near Antarctica, lurks something even larger, the colossal squid, heavier than the giant squid, armed with rotating hooks on its arms. We have only ever caught a few. Almost everything about how it lives, and hunts, and dies, remains a complete mystery. And now it is time to talk about the pressure. Because by this depth, it has become a monster of its own. At the surface, the air presses on your body at 1 atmosphere. You never feel it, because you were born inside it. But every 10 meters you descend, the pressure increases by 1 more atmosphere of crushing weight. At 1,000 meters, the pressure is already 100 times what you feel on the beach. An unprotected human body would not be squeezed gently like a soda can. It would be far worse. Every airspace inside you, your lungs, your sinuses, the tiny pockets inside your bones, would collapse in an instant. Death would arrive faster than your nerves could even carry the message of pain. And we are not even halfway to the bottom yet. We sink past 2,000 meters. 3,000. 4,000. The water is utterly black, the cold is absolute, and the pressure is now measured in the hundreds of atmospheres. This vast middle layer is called the abyss. The Abyssal Zone, and its floor is the largest single habitat on the planet. And here, in the headlights of our imaginary submarine, you would see it. A constant, gentle, endless drift of pale flakes falling through the beam. It looks exactly like snow falling in the dark. Scientists even call it marine snow. But it is not snow. It is death. Every flake is the remains of something that lived in the sunlit world far above. Dead plankton. Fish scales. Waste. The crumbled bodies of trillions of tiny creatures, sinking slowly, for weeks, toward the bottom. This silent snowfall is the only food most of the deep ocean will ever receive. An entire world, vast and crowded, surviving on the scraps that fall from the world above it. On the abyssal plain, strange animals wait for it. Sea cucumbers crawling across the endless mud. Ghostly white crabs. Sea spiders the size of your hand. Fish with bodies like soft jelly. Everything here moves slowly, because everything here is starving, and energy is far too precious to waste on a single needless motion. And down here, something strange begins to happen to size itself. In the cold, the dark, and the crushing pressure, certain creatures grow far larger than their relatives in the shallows. Scientists call it deep-sea gigantism. A woodlouse that would sit on your fingertip near the surface becomes a giant isopod the size of a house cat, armored like a tank, crawling across the mud. Off the coast of Japan, spider crabs stretch their spindly legs nearly 4 meters from claw to claw, the largest of any arthropod alive. No one fully understands why the deep grows its animals so large. It simply does. And everything here lives on a different scale of time. With so little food and such bitter cold, life in the deep slows almost to a stop. Some deep-sea corals found on these slopes are over 4,000 years old, alive since the dawn of human writing. A fish that would live a few years at the surface may live for centuries down here. In the abyss, time itself seems to move more slowly, measured not in seasons, but in millennia. But every so often, the snowfall brings something enormous. Sometimes, a whale dies in the world above, and its great body sinks all the way to the bottom. And when it lands, it creates one of the strangest events in all of nature. A whale fall. A single dead whale can feed the deep sea for 50 years. First, sharks and ghostly hagfish strip away the flesh. Then armies of worms and crustaceans move in to clean the bones. And finally, special bacteria colonize the skeleton itself, breaking down the very fats locked inside the bone, feeding an entire community of creatures, some of which live nowhere else on Earth but on the corpses of whales. An entire ecosystem, born from a single death, glowing quietly in the dark for half a century. And in some places on the seafloor, you find something that should not be possible, a lake. An underwater lake, with its own shoreline and its own waves, pooled at the bottom of the sea. These brine pools are so dense with salt that they do not mix with the water above. Animals that wander in are killed by the toxic salt almost instantly. Scientists have given one of them a grim nickname, the Jacuzzi of Despair. A pool of death, at the bottom of the ocean, ringed with the bodies of creatures that drifted too close. But the deep is not only death and hunger. In 2018, off the coast of California, explorers found something almost tender in the cold dark. Thousands of octopuses gathered together on the seafloor near the warmth of an underwater volcano, each mother curled protectively around her clutch of eggs. They had traveled to this one warm patch of rock to nest, using the heat to speed the growth of their young in water that would otherwise be far too cold. A vast nursery, glowing faintly at the bottom of the sea. And we had no idea it existed until we happened to point a camera at exactly the right patch of mud, on the floor of a world we have barely begun to map. And then there is the discovery that rewrote everything we thought we knew about life itself. Because out here on the deep ocean floor, the crust cracks open, and the impossible happens. From these cracks, called hydrothermal vents, water erupts that has been superheated by the molten rock beneath the seafloor. It pours out at over 400 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to melt lead. And yet it does not boil, because the pressure down here is so crushing that the water physically cannot turn to steam. In 1977, a small submarine called Alvin descended to one of these vents for the very first time. The scientists aboard expected barren, lifeless rock. Instead, their lights revealed something that left them speechless. An oasis. A teeming, crowded, thriving city of life, kilometers below the last reach of the sun. Towering tube worms, 3 meters tall, blood red, with no mouth and no stomach at all. Clams the size of dinner plates. Blind shrimp swarming over the hot rock. The Pompeii worm, living pressed against scalding vent walls in heat that would cook almost anything else alive. And the Yeti crab, ghostly white and covered in hairy arms, which farms bacteria on its own body and waves them through the chemical-rich water to grow its food. None of these creatures live on sunlight. They live on chemicals. Poisonous, sulfurous chemicals pouring straight out of the planet. Bacteria turn that poison into food, and an entire web of life is built on top of it. This is called chemosynthesis, and before 1977, we did not believe it could support life like this at all. For all of human history, we thought life needed the sun. Down here, in water that should kill everything it touches, the ocean proved us completely wrong. Some scientists now believe that vents like these may be where all life on Earth began. Warm, mineral-rich water, seeping through cracks in the young planet's crust, providing the energy and the chemistry for the very first living things, 4 billion years ago. If they are right, then we did not come from the land, or even from the sunlit sea. We came from the dark. From places exactly like this. And that single idea changed where we search for life beyond Earth. Because if life can begin and thrive in the boiling, poison dark of our own seafloor, then it might exist in the hidden oceans beneath the ice of distant moons, like Europa and Enceladus, far from any star. The search for alien life was rewritten by what we found at the bottom of our own sea. And the life down here does not even stop at the seafloor. It goes deeper, into the solid rock itself. Kilometers beneath the bottom of the ocean, sealed inside the crust of the planet, scientists have drilled out living microbes, surviving in tiny pores in the stone, some of them perhaps thousands of years old, feeding so slowly they may divide only once a century. This hidden world inside the Earth may contain a staggering fraction of all the living matter on the entire planet. We share this world with a vast biosphere we cannot see, buried in the dark, beneath the sea. And this whole region is where the planet quietly swallows itself. The seafloor we have been sinking past is being dragged, slowly, down into the trench and beneath the neighboring plate, carried down into the molten interior of the Earth to be melted and remade. Everything that has fallen here, the marine snow, the bones, the carbon of countless dead, is slowly being pulled into the deepest recycling system on the planet. The trench is not just the bottom of the ocean. It is a doorway into the body of the Earth itself. And now, 6,000 meters down, the ocean floor begins to fall away beneath us once more. Into the trench itself. Into the deepest zone of all. This is the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. It exists only inside the deep ocean trenches, below 6,000 meters, and almost nothing on Earth has ever been here. The Mariana is not the only one of these wounds. The Pacific Ocean is ringed with them. The Tonga Trench, the Kermadec, the Philippine Trench, the Japan Trench. A whole circle of abysses, each plunging far beyond 6,000 meters into the Hadal Dark, each with its own creatures found nowhere else. But the Mariana is the deepest of them all. Once we reach its floor, there is no deeper place on the surface of this entire planet left to go. And this trench is not just deep. It is dangerous to the entire world above it. Here, one tectonic plate is grinding down beneath another, and that slow, violent collision is what builds the deepest trenches on Earth. It is also what unleashes the most powerful earthquakes and tsunamis on the planet. The same forces that carved this abyss have, in other trenches like it, sent walls of water racing toward distant coastlines and changed history in a single afternoon. The walls of the Mariana Trench rise around us now, steeper than any canyon on land. We are inside the planet's deepest wound, sinking through a darkness that has never, not once in the entire history of the world, seen a single ray of light. And here, at last, we reach the creature I promised you at the very beginning. The one that, by every rule we know, should not exist. At 8,178 meters, a research team lowered a baited camera into the trench. And out of the black swam a fish. Small. Pale. Translucent. With no scales, almost no pigment, and a body so delicate you can see straight through it to the organs working inside. It is called a snailfish. And it is the deepest living fish ever recorded. For decades, scientists believed there was a hard limit, somewhere around 8,200 meters, below which no fish could possibly survive, because the pressure would tear their cells apart from within. This fragile little fish is living its whole life right at the edge of that impossible line. How does it survive? Its body is filled with a special molecule that braces its proteins, stopping the crushing pressure from crumpling them like wet paper. It has no swim bladder, no pocket of air anywhere inside it, nothing for the pressure to collapse. It is not fighting the deep. It has become part of it. A living, swimming fish, thriving in a place where every law of biology says life should be impossible. We are close now. Below 9,000 meters. Below 10,000. The pressure is approaching 1,000 times what you feel at the surface. Try to truly feel what that means. 1,086 atmospheres. Imagine the weight of around 50 jumbo jets, stacked one on top of another, pressing down on a single square inch. That is the force on every part of our hull right now. One small flaw in the metal, one weak weld, and the ocean would fold it shut in an instant, with a sound that no one would ever hear. And still, against all of it, there is life. At the very bottom, pale shrimp-like creatures called amphipods swarm through the sediment. Some have been found with fragments of aluminum and plastic inside their bodies, pollution that drifted down from the human world far above. Even here, in the single most remote place on the entire planet, we have already left our mark. And then, at 10,994 meters, there is nowhere left to go. The lights catch a flat, pale plane of fine, undisturbed sediment, untouched for millions of years. This is the Challenger Deep, the bottom of the world. In 1960, two men came here for the very first time. Jack Pickard and Don Walsh, sealed inside a cramped steel sphere called the Trieste, sank for nearly 5 hours into the black. When they finally touched down, their craft kicked up a cloud of silt, and they waited in silence for it to settle. And as they sat there, at the deepest point on Earth, Pickard looked out the tiny window and saw something move. A flatfish, he believed, drifting slowly across the seafloor. That single sighting stunned the world. Life, at the very bottom of everything. Scientists still argue about what he truly saw that day. But Pickard never doubted it. Of that moment, in that crushing dark, he wrote that the deep was not a dead, hostile void at all. It was, in his words, alive. For 52 years after that, no human returned. Then, in 2012, the filmmaker James Cameron climbed alone into a lime green submersible and sank to the Challenger Deep by himself, the first person ever to make the journey solo. He described a desolate, alien, moonlit plain, stretching away into the dark, and a loneliness unlike anything he had ever known. In that moment, he was the most isolated human being on the entire planet. And in 2019, the explorer Victor Vescovo went deeper still into the trench, spending hours on the bottom. He discovered what may be several new species of sea creatures. And he found something else, lying in the sediment at the deepest point on Earth. A plastic bag, and candy wrappers. Human trash resting at the bottom of the world, in a place only a handful of people had ever reached. In the years since, a few more have followed them down. In 2020, Kathy Sullivan, who had once walked in space high above the Earth, descended to the Challenger Deep and became the first human ever to both spacewalk and touch the deepest point in the ocean. Think about that. We have sent more people up, into the vacuum of space, than we have ever sent down, to the floor of our own sea. The bottom of the ocean remains, even now, harder to reach than the sky. Sit in the silence with me for a moment. The silence Pickard described. He said it felt so complete that it was almost aggressive. As if the ocean itself were holding its breath, and watching. And now, remember the third thing I asked you to hold on to, all those kilometers ago. The sound. In 1997, underwater microphones across the Pacific picked up one of the loudest sounds ever recorded in the ocean. It rose in pitch over about a minute, and it was detected by sensors more than 5,000 kilometers apart. It was so powerful and so strange that for years no one could agree on what could possibly have made it. Some wondered, quietly, whether something enormous and unknown was moving down there in the dark. The accepted explanation today is an icequake, the sound of a colossal iceberg cracking apart far to the south. Probably. Most scientists are satisfied. But for years, the honest answer was simpler and far stranger. We did not know. The ocean had made a sound we could not explain, and it reminded us just how little of this world we have ever truly heard. Because here is the truth that should stay with you as we begin to rise. We have better maps of the surface of Mars and of the Moon than we do of our own ocean floor. More people have stood on the Moon than have descended to the Challenger Deep. We have explored less than a quarter of the sea beneath our own feet. And every single time we send a camera into the deep trenches, we find creatures that no human has ever seen. Not occasionally. Almost every time. There are millions of animals down there, entire branches of life on the tree, with no names, because no human eyes have ever fallen upon them. We begin to ascend. Up through the Hadal dark. Past the snailfish at the very edge of the impossible. Up through the burning vents and the falling snow and the glowing anglerfish, back through the great migration of the twilight, toward the warm and trembling light of the surface. And as the blue brightens around us, think about what is still down there, right now, in the dark, as you breathe. The pressure has not eased. The cold has not lifted. The snailfish is still swimming at 8,000 meters. The vents are still burning. The whale fall is still glowing on the abyssal plain. An entire living world, vast beyond imagining, is carrying on without a single ray of sun, and without a single human eye upon it. The deepest place on Earth is not empty. It is not lifeless. It is more alive, and more mysterious, than almost anywhere else we will ever go. We crawled out of this sea millions of years ago. We learned to walk, to build, to fly, even to leave the planet entirely and stand upon another world. And yet the oldest, largest, strangest country on our own Earth still lies in darkness beneath the waves, almost completely unexplored, hiding just beneath the surface of a world we thought we knew. The Mariana Trench was just one wound in that hidden world. One scar, 11 kilometers deep. And it is only the beginning of what waits below. We call our home the Earth. But that is almost a lie. Seen from space, it is a blue planet, a world of water, and the land we live on is just the dry edges around the real world, the one beneath the waves. We have named our continents and mapped every mountain and built cities in every desert. And yet the largest part of our own planet remains a dark, cold, living mystery that we are only just beginning to glimpse. If this journey changed the way you see the ocean, then there is somewhere else we need to go next. Somewhere even stranger, even deeper into the unknown. Because the deep is not finished giving up its secrets. And neither are we.